Hey guys, Sifu Nik here from the Xtreme Training Academy. I'm here with my good friend Alex Embry from Alpha Jiu Jitsu. We've been answering some questions about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I take my personal development over to Alex to help him, or to have him help me with my grappling and Jiu Jitsu game. Okay, so it's somebody that I trust, and I try and bring some of these things back into the classroom. Some of you guys have asked me of some questions, and I wanted to, instead of giving my answer, bring them to Alex's attention and see what his take on it is. In this video, we're going to answer one particular question, which is, how do you deal with brute force? The guy who just, you end up locking up with him, right? And he's really strong, he's got forearms like Popeye, and, he may not have an athletic game, but he's very aggressive. And he's just solid, you know what I mean? Like the beefcake jiu-jitsu is what I call it, honestly, is they get a hold of you and they're just muscling everything. How do you dissipate that? How do you negate some of that muscular advantage that he's bringing to the table?
Right. Great question, and one of the continual problems of jiu-jitsu. How do you deal with the bigger, stronger guy? The selling point of jiu-jitsu has always been that you use leverage on the bigger, stronger guys. It's what it allows it to be successful for smaller people. The caveat to that, though, is there a reason there's weight classes, and your big, strong guy brings a certain set of attributes to the table, and those are a force to be reckoned with. You can't just overlook those and think that they're not important. The answer for the big, strong guy is kind of counterintuitive at the start, especially if he's on top of you. The answer to the big, strong guy is to relax. The big, strong guy is going to have a certain amount of gas tank unless he's a competent jiu-jitsu player, very highly trained jiu-jitsu player. Then you have a real problem on your hands. But from a self-defense standpoint, looking at the big, strong guy trying to bully you to the ground, it's almost always to relax. Trying to meet that individual with his strength, with your strength, is just not going to work. I'm never going to be able to outmuscle the 225-pound, big, strong guy. It's just not going to happen. But if I relax, it lets me bring my other attributes into play. It lets me start to flow with him, to read his energy, to bring the sensitivity I have about what his body's doing to the game. If I'm very rigid, trying to press back against his force, I can't feel anything. I can't feel his hips, I can't feel his center, I can't feel his base, I can't feel his motion, because I'm so locked into this struggle with him. If I relax against the big, strong guy, I can start to feel it. I can use that sensitivity. I understand where his center is, where his hips are, how his base is, where the weak points and all of those are. And then I can start to let that guide my flow. What am I going to work for? What am I going to take a little bit at a time? And once I start taking those openings that he inevitably gives me, because with that strength, with that squeeze, with that push, comes a counterforce. And that usually comes by way of an opening for you to exploit. As long as you're relaxed and sensitive enough to feel it and understand the flow and are able to take it step by step and move out. Then once we get out, then we're looking at changing position. I can't ride the bottom game forever against that big, strong guy. Once I'm out, once I've relaxed, once I've utilized my flow, found my opening, now we're talking about getting him on his back and getting me on top. That's where I can really start to work. That's where I can breathe again. I don't have his weight to deal with. I don't have his crush to deal with. Now I can start to really work.
So relate that to the street style, or the street side of the self-defense side of jiu-jitsu, let's just say, okay? That's a tough thing to do because, you end up in a parking lot, brawl or a bar brawl, that kind of thing. You end up on your back, somebody climbs on top of you, and, and he's, built like a V, you know what I mean? Tough place to relax. I mean, you kind of have to move immediately. And then the goal is obviously to get back to your feet, right? I mean, as you don't want to sit around and play arm bars and kimuras and that kind of stuff. The idea is get back up, right? And so when you say relax and deal with, and bring forth different attributes, the sensitivity, the reading of pressure, to find where you can get out, which is 100% true, how do you develop that particular attribute or set of attributes when you're not in the competition ring, when you're not in the artistic side, when you're on the full go,
right?
You know what I mean?
And that comes back to a subject near and dear to your heart, training methodology.
Yeah.
And let me again state, I've said it before, I think I've said it on videos before, jiu-jitsu is a big art with a lot of applications, but if you're looking for it for pure self-defense, you have to train with that goal in mind at some points.
Right.
That means I have to first learn the technique. That has to be my starting point. I will never be able to relax if I don't thoroughly understand the technique. Not the gross motor functions, hey, I saw this on YouTube, but really understand what makes that tick. what variations there are based on what he's given me. That's what lets you relax, that confidence you develop repetition after repetition after repetition. After you understand the technique, then you have to start playing with your training methodology to move beyond technique. In jiu-jitsu, that's built in because a huge, probably 60% of your jiu-jitsu education is on the free roll, the open mat, where you're pitting that skill against a resistive opponent. Excellent start, and it's one of, in my opinion, the strengths of jiu-jitsu. We deal from day one, not just with the theoretical, but with the practical, against the resistance. So as you do that, you're starting to build that comfort level of moving with a guy wrestling with you. From there, you're looking at increasing the intensity. You're looking at adding the component of strikes with the 16-ounce gloves. And you're really talking about how you train that movement. So it's not so much I learned this technique, and I quote-unquote relax. That's easy answer.
Right.
But we know that's not true. The fact is you build that relaxation through training methodology. You build that through hours and hours of practice in that method.
Makes perfect sense. All right, guys, so make sure that you're relaxed. If you have any other questions, make sure that you guys contact Alex. How do we find you online?
AlphaJujitsu.com is our coming soon website. We're going to have the full site up here in 2 or 3 weeks. You'll be able to track me down that way. We're good to go on Facebook, though. You can track us down at AlphaBJJ.
Perfect. Make sure you guys get a hold of Alex if you got any questions. I'll talk to you guys soon.
See you.